strategic point of view, you think that's such an obvious misstep, but so easy to correct. What sort of thing you see there from a strategic point of view when people build a website that you think, no, we got this wrong, because you're not doing anything with people once they arrive?
Yeah, so I think there's two things that I see happen a lot. The first is the blog for a lot of websites gets a lot of hits, but it's sometimes forgotten. So there's not necessarily a call to action or a clear next step when somebody reads a blog post. And obviously, if you've gotten the traffic to your website, you want them to stay for a while, pull up a chair, read some more stuff, click on something, get in touch. So, the sidebar is a really great option. You can see, on my website, it actually says, "Hi, I'm Lauren. Thanks for stopping by." And a little blurb, and it says learn more, and it, goes to a different page. And there's also, we have a lead magnet that shows up once they've read through the whole article. So I think to lead into the kind of the lead magnet aspect, one of the huge obvious misses I see with websites is not having smart pop-ups. So having a pop-up that pops up right when I'm on your website, like most of the time when that happens, people will bounce off because it's disruptive to what they're actually trying to do. So most people, before they pick up the phone, send an email, etc., they're researching you. A lot of the people who are contacting businesses today are significantly more informed about what they want, what they're looking for, and who they want to do business with. So chances are if somebody's reaching out to you, it's because they've already done a lot of research. And if you interrupt that research with an invasive pop-up that's not relevant to them, then that can cause some disruption where they won't continue down that path. So, you can do gentle ones, you can do delayed ones, you can do ones based on how they scroll the page or what they click on. And so the more strategic you get with how you interact with people on your website, I think that's a really big opportunity. So, obviously leading them from the blog to where you want them to go, more strategically looking in to your opt-ins or your pop-ups or whatnot. And I guess 2.0 or 2.1 or the third one is that your message is muddled. So within 3 seconds, somebody has decided whether they want to engage you in some way, whether that's researching more or getting your ebook or sending you an email. And if somebody comes to your website and doesn't know what you do, why you do it, and how it helps them, within those first 3 seconds, they're going to go Google somebody else. So that's another huge miss, is like putting all the not relevant stuff front and center. So you're like Facebook page or this or that, or some stock photo that doesn't really do anything is hurting your business more than it's helping it.
So interesting, isn't it? Because we place so much emphasis on websites, as you say, all the effort that goes into driving traffic there in the first place. But then if you don't have the strategy in place as to what you're doing with people once they arrive, you've kind of wasted the effort around the outside. Yeah.
I mean, it becomes basically an expensive business card rather than an asset that's working for you.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So simple strategy then. What steps can somebody take when they're starting out to create what would be a first serious strategic step, the one that comes after saying, okay, I think I want to be a coach. I think I want to be a web developer. I think I want to be one of these. And people start out, they get some clients, and then they've got 12 months of doing things. And then they start thinking, I'm seeing other people doing stuff. I should really start to think more strategically about this. How can they, is there a good process that people can utilize so that they don't go off in all the directions, but it becomes a contained process to try and create something that they can then start mapping out what they really want to achieve?
So is this the case, they've had a business for a year and they've seen success and they're kind of like, now what? Or is this like a brand new person?
I think it could. I think people who are starting out tend to come at it not always from a strategic point of view anyway. It's a much more, it's an income driven thing. And if they can earn some money to start with, that's goal number one.
Right.
Subsequently, they start thinking about how they could turn it into being more than just about the income. So let's take someone who is up and running, they have some experience, they have some clients, but they realize that to go from, let's say, $100,000 to somewhere else closer to $1 million, they're going to have to get a bit more serious about how they plan what they do in their business. Where are they going to start?
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, you'll love this. Profit first. I mean, if you have no money, then you have no business. So I'm going to assume that you can pay all of your bills and that you have a little bit of money to invest moving forward. So the first thing I always look at is where are you spending your time? Because for entrepreneurs, again, you know, a lot of times we're really good at what we do, but we're so in the muck and mire of the everyday, you know, chief everything officer that we can't actually get us out.
I like that. I really like that. Yeah.
Right? I know. I don't know if I can take credit for that, but
I'm just writing that one down. Yeah.
Write it down.
Chief everything officer. Yeah.
Chief everything officer. So, you know, that is probably, I would say, one of the most eye-opening experiences that I do with my clients is really, where are you spending your time, and are you working on the things that are moving you forward? Or are you just kind of treading water? And so I have the 4 Ds that I tell people they need to really look at. So the first is defer. So is this something that's important but not urgent? Can I do it later? So that, you know, in my G Suite, I actually have a folder that says defer, and I look at it at every, I think, Wednesday and Friday during my little admin hours. Delegate. So hopefully at this time, if you're making good money, you do have somebody that you can delegate things to. Delete. So this is a big one, like just getting stuff off of your plate. So, you know, there are a lot of things that pull our attention. And so wanting to make sure that you're not being pulled in that other direction when it's really not something important. So, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs go to a lot of networking events, which is great, but like something that you could be more strategic with is really understanding if those networking events have the connections or the people that are going to move your business forward, rather than just being a time suck.
Yeah.
And then of course do. So that's the biggest one. So, you know, I try as hard as I can that if something needs to get done, it gets done right then, because otherwise it's just going to get lost. So once you can figure out your time and really what you're getting bogged down in versus what you're really good at that only you can do, that really brings in the money, that's going to get you from 6 figures to multiple 6 figures, because then you can work in your business and have you run it rather than it running you. And so, you know, there's a couple of different ways to do that. But if you just audit your days and you figure and you see where you're actually spending your time, you can uncover a lot of areas where you're like, oh, I was busy, but I wasn't productive. And so I think that that's one really big strategic area that will exponentially move the needle, because if you have, you know, a power hour where you make 15 sales calls or something like that nets you $10,000, that's way more important than an hour of, and this is funny, but like in a Facebook group and you're like just catching up and whatnot.
Just chatting away,
like,
yeah.
You're like networking, right? In the Facebook group, but are you really moving your business forward? I don't know. So, so that's one area that I see drastically change. And then the other one is, I think that sometimes entrepreneurs are programmed to look at their business in terms of months or years. And I think if you look at it in terms of quarters, again, going back to those bite-sized pieces, it allows you to really look and see the trends of where you are. Because there's this great book called, actually there's 2, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, I think, and The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. But both of those have very similar premises where it's the little things that make the biggest difference. So, you may have an off week. Everybody has off weeks. But if you have 4 off weeks in a row, that's going to create an off month, off quarter, off year, versus if you have a really great month and you can keep that momentum, your upward trajectory is going to go up. So when you can get clear on what has to happen to move you forward and how you're spending your time, that's going to move the needle much more effectively. And if you break it down into those 90 days, you can see those trends happen and project them much more efficiently. So you can say, okay, this is where and there's a great, it's a SWOT analysis. Some people do these at the end of the year. You can do them. I recommend them quarterly. So it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah.
And so if you look at that for the past quarter and say what went great, what didn't go great, what was our revenue, what was our profit, conversions, things like that, and audit it, and then say where were we on track, where were we off track, what are we going to do this quarter to make sure that we stay on course, again, back to that autopilot, that's going to be a really big difference maker in terms of revenue.
I do like the quarterly aspect of things in terms of reviewing, particularly from a financial perspective as well. I think it helps people deal with, as you say, the off week. It helps people deal with seasonal holidays. It helps people deal with seasonal businesses as well to some degree. Yeah. It helps people change, do those autocorrect pieces, make an adjustment and see the benefit, where quite often those benefits aren't immediate, but you have a chance to see it take effect over a quarter and then take it into the next quarter. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that quarterly reporting piece. I don't think you should ignore individual months or longer periods of time, but I think the quarterly piece, it also, I think in terms of certainly in corporate world, when you think about rewarding staff, you want consistent performance over time. Too often people have one good month and then having had a good month, drop off.
Yeah,
and you want to reward people for having 3 good months and being consistent, which is exactly what you were saying about the momentum piece, really. But yeah, I think quarters are definitely a great way to do that. It gives people time, and particularly in strategic terms, it gives people time to actually step back from things, think about it, then go implement, then try, then adjust, and still have a chance of it having an effect within a quarter, whereas it will rarely have that much an effect if it's a big thing within a shorter period of time. So yeah, I'm right with you on that, and I'm definitely with you on the compound effect of small cumulative changes. And it's definitely something in reviewing profitability in businesses that I see a lot. People think they have to make massive changes to change the bottom line, and so often people are incredibly shocked by the fact it's often small changes, but very purposeful ones that actually make a big difference once you start adding them up, and the compound effect of that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. When we're going through a transition and we're growing a business, and let's say we've made it past the 6-figure barrier, we've got to $250,000 maybe, things start changing as we then start heading towards $1 million. But we've got this work that we've already done, and we've got things that we've accumulated in the background. How can we use things that we've already got efficiently as part of the leverage as we move forward? Or do we actually need to really restart from scratch again? Do we need to rethink everything? Where do we go with that?
Yeah. So in general, to grow a business from 6 figures to even 2.5 million, it doesn't really change. Where it does change is after 2.5 million to about maybe 5 to 8 to 10 million. That's when things get vastly different, because you need more systems. You need more complexity in terms of, you have different levels of people with not opportunity. What's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility. So it gets more complicated that side, but between 100,000 and 2.5 million, there's not that much that changes, except obviously your bank account. And so I wouldn't say that you need to go back to the drawing board. In fact, I'd say that is something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of half baking things and then going on to something else, or what do I call it? Shiny object syndrome.
Yep.
Where they're like, oh, the competition's doing this.